So we're just about to begin. Of course, we've had a lovely first half of the event, and it's been wonderful to hear some of the lovely conversations that we've had in the panel. But right now, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to hear from some of the brightest minds and their ideas on how systemic change can be catalyzed.
It is my pleasure to introduce Alex Counts, who is the leader of India Philanthropy Alliance, which he got deeply involved in as he was the CEO at America India Foundation. The most important thing that Alex did want me to tell you, though, that he is a cat lover. So please welcome Alex.
Here we go. Join us. You're going to be here. These are brilliant young emerging leaders. But let me just tell you one thing. Being around them, it reminded me of my time in college and high school. And I realized that I only remembered one formula from my years in college. One. And that formula is nonprofit types plus free food equals successful event. And seeing the turnout and the food that we've been given, and thanks to Dasra and Indiaspora for providing that and everything else, it's good to know that the laws of nature have not changed since the 1980s. So yeah, you can clap. What the heck? So I'm Alex Counts. I'm the executive director of the India Philanthropy Alliance. Basically, the Alliance is an organization set up in 2018 because I felt that there was really an opportunity to create more camaraderie, cooperation, communication, information sharing among the leaders of the major Indian charities active in the US. And also that we could tackle some joint problems or opportunities together rather than do it separately. And for example, we felt that there was an opportunity to market American philanthropy to India more successfully and aggressively. And that led to the creation of something called India Giving Day, which is now a 2-year-old tradition that we're very proud of and is growing. And another thing we felt is, gosh, how are we going to engage the next generation of Indian Americans and Americans who have a heart for India in philanthropy to India? Because people who are born in India, they kind of know what's the need. So we actually spent a year researching how we could become a more youth-friendly institution. And hopefully we're better than we used to be. And that would actually led to a 2-part series in the Chronicle of Philanthropy where we shared our learnings over a whole year, and you can look them up. They're published. But the other thing is we designed this youth essay competition, which is a national competition among middle school and high school students to share with us, their elders, and anyone else who wants to read, what are the big opportunities that philanthropy can address in India. And so we call for essays, and this year we got a total of 110 essays from around the country, the highest ever. And the best essays, the 2 best essays, best middle school and high school essays, the writers of them are here. One of the ways we incentivize people to write essays is we say that, okay, we're going to publish the winning essays, the runner-up essays, and a small number of finalist essays. But we obviously give more attention to the winning essays. We give a grant, so each of them have had a chance to choose a nonprofit of theirs, and that we donate $1,000 in their name to a nonprofit. And we'll hear about the choices they made. And third, they get invited to speak at this conference. And we've been doing this for 5 years in partnership with Indiaspora, and it's just worked out beautifully. So, but enough from me. I want to just ask you, first of all, Nirmal, anything you picked up from the conference today that just really struck you that you want to share with the group?
Yeah, so I was sitting right there and I was just taking in all the wisdom and all the knowledge from the panelists before me. Some of the main things that stuck out was in the gender equity discussion and how change can happen and how we need change, and how even though there's multiple problems that are persisting in the gender gap in India, change can happen. And it's just really amazing to see all the stuff that's happening and all the discussions and the potential solutions that might be done to solve back and bridge the gap in gender in India.
Great, and just also give a proper introduction, Nirmal Mellam, he's in 10th grader from West Des Moines, Iowa, Theodore Roosevelt High School, and great. And Sia Lakshmi Sampson from my state in Maryland, Oakdale Middle School. What struck you about the discussions earlier?
A lot of wisdom has been shared throughout this conference, but one thing that stuck out to me was one of the earlier comments about how diabetes is a massive problem for India's progress, which was absolutely mind-blowing to me because I had no idea that diabetes could have such a massive impact on India's population.
Okay. Yeah, it's Nalini sometimes talks about a diabetes tsunami, and that she's working really hard to try to kind of save people from that, and maybe we can all join forces with her in a bigger way. So you chose a topic. You could have chosen any topic for what you thought was a key issue in India today that philanthropy could address. So Nirmal, you chose the digital divide. Tell us about how you ended up choosing that topic and what you learned about it as you researched and wrote it.
Yeah, so first of all, I'd like to thank Dasra and Indiaspora for organizing such an amazing event. It was really fun. I learned a lot from this. Thank you. Also, thanks to IPA for giving us the opportunity to write an essay and present our findings and solutions at a panel like this. But on to the question. So the reason why I chose the digital divide is because it's such a widespread problem in India, and I don't think it gets the attention that it deserves. So when I was researching, one thing I found that was India has the second largest market of internet users, but at the same time, over 600 million people in India don't have reliable access to internet. So the more deeper that you dig into the problem, you start to see that it isn't just a structural issue between people that are wealthy and poor people that don't have that much wealth, but it's more of an issue between men and women, and also between people that live in urban areas and then in remote villages.
Nirmal, if this nonprofit thing doesn't work out for you, you got a future in politics. Sia, what about you? You chose the issue of healthcare, particularly healthcare in emergency situations. Why did you choose that, and what did you learn about it?
I chose the particular topic of medical volunteerism because I've always wanted to be a doctor and heal people of their illnesses, and I know how important access to doctors is. And also, charity, community service, and healthcare are some of my top priorities. So when researching for this essay, I found that medical volunteerism was such a perfect blend of those priorities and such a powerful tool to fill in those healthcare gaps. There's such a high need for it, but such little awareness. So my goal for this competition was to inspire others and raise awareness for medical volunteerism.
I think you're having some success, so I'm not, we'll see. You said, before we go back to Nirmal, you said healthcare and gender equity, I think, were important issues for you. Why, is there a personal reason they're important to you, or why did they kind of rise to your list? Philanthropy is a very personal thing, and we're influenced by our families, what we read. How did that get to the top of your list?
As I said before, I've always wanted to be a doctor, which is why I chose to research more about healthcare. But gender equity, even though I've never experienced any gender inequality, I've heard about it, and it really stuck with me because of the fact that I am a woman, and I just want to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future.
Great. Good. Actually having empathy for a problem that hasn't impacted you yet, but that you want to solve because it impacts others, that's a pretty high form of consciousness, and congratulations to you. Nirmal, in the digital divide work, you in your essay, which I encourage all of you to read, they're published on our website, and the runners-up and the finalists, but these are the top ones. You identified some solutions, and so what did you find was working and that could be built on more with well-designed philanthropy?
Yeah, so the first thing was that the government is already implementing policies that could help bridge the digital divide. The first one was the BharatNet program, and the main goal of that program was to bring high-speed internet to 250,000 villages across India. The problem with that is that there isn't enough capital and funding behind that program. So the main solution I gave in my essay is to accelerate the program, so we could either increasing funding and increasing capital that goes behind the program, so we can accelerate it and then just give more have internet implemented in villages across India. The other main thing was public-private partnerships that can increase digital literacy. So having the technology in the village is one thing, but knowing how to use the technology is something that's really difficult. For example, my family in India, they've been having a cell phone for a year now, but they don't know how to use it or how to operate it other than calling somebody. So just giving that digital literacy, teaching them how to operate and how to use the technology that they have is something that's really powerful. And in the past, Google has implemented the Sati program, which has been really beneficial. And one of the impacts of these sort of digital literacy programs is that it doesn't just end with the media, the target people that learn. It's spreads, knowledge spreads. So once you teach people how to use the technology, they start teaching other people within their community, and that just knowledge just spreads.
Putting money behind things that work. What a concept. I say that, Nirmal, because it sounds so obvious, but actually it's not that much practiced in philanthropy as it should be. So thank you for reminding us of that. Sia, what are some of the things you discovered are working or could work to address the issue you chose?
Some things that I have thought could work is setting up a stipend for potential volunteers to go to India and work in hospitals and clinics around the country, and creating internships in India for students in top U.S. medical schools.
It seems like you were, as someone who's read your essay, you were struck by how much of healthcare in this country is performed by Indian Americans, and yet there are gaps in the service in India. And so you're trying to, in some way, kind of reverse that that trend, right? I mean, that's a big point. It was one of your main points, right?
Yes, exactly. That was one of my main points.
All right, I'm doing good on reading comprehension, I think. Nirmal, you've actually done some things in this area. You started your own nonprofit. You've done some things. You have some plans for this summer. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of the Young Minds Mission Foundation. I started it as a freshman in Des Moines, Iowa. And over the summer, when I went to India with my dad, we carried out 2 initiatives in a remote village. The first one was to host a free medical health camp. One of the main problems in healthcare in India, especially in the villages, is that there isn't that much capacity or workforce. So in the village that we conducted the health camp in, there was only one nurse, one an RMP doctor, and there was many people with undiagnosed problems that didn't know that they were having having those health issues. So once we had that health camp, many people came and they were able to get diagnosed, get treatment, get medicine to help treat those problems. And the second one was we implemented a solar panel on this village school, and that village school, there was persistent electrical and power outages. So when we implemented that solar panel, they were able to have a consistent supply of electricity, and they're able to get that electricity in a clean, climate resilient way. And also they would have a surplus of electricity, so they were actually making money off the solar panel because they could sell the surplus and extra electricity that wasn't used to the government, and they get money off of that.
Well, yeah, you could clap. There's no problem with that. So, sounds like your father's a really good guy. Brought you to India, but is it also true that your father's been taking too many pictures of you today?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but it's all right. It's all right. So, Sia, you've this idea of India Giving Day that is this new tradition we've started with that many of the people in this room have been involved in different ways or may get involved. It sounds like through this whole process of writing this essay, you've developed some ideas of how you might celebrate it in Maryland. Tell us about that.
What I was thinking of was creating an oath that potential volunteers would sign, basically stating that they would dedicate their time in India to medical volunteerism. And yeah.
And that's very interesting because it's almost goes like the Clinton Global Initiative, like making a commitment to the future that doesn't have to be about money. And you know, whether you follow through, it's up to you, but you use that moment, and it's, you know, there's a lot of research to say that if I were to say right now that I'm going to run another marathon, I've run 3 and they weren't all pretty, but just by saying that, the chances of me actually running another marathon go up significantly. It's just that that's the way our human minds work, and so by making that commitment, you know, I think you're really onto something and giving them people a platform. Nirmal, you tell me about the organization you chose, because you were given $1,000 to give to a nonprofit of your choice that does work in India. What did you choose and why?
I chose to donate the $1,000 to Manaloni Manishi Foundation, which in English translates to The Human Within Us. And it's a great organization, and the reason why I donated to Manaloni Manishi Foundation is because they try to empower people, especially in remote villages, which is something that connects with the problem of the digital divide. And they're also willing to collaborate and partner with my organization to carry out initiatives and to help bridge the digital divide and to implement other climate change resilient initiatives in rural villages.
So it looks like you did some serious research about them, and good for you. Well done. Sia, what about you? What choice did you make and why?
I donated my prize to the Sati project, which is located in rural South India. It trains volunteers to act as medical practitioners in villages that don't have any local doctors, just further contributing to the medical volunteerism that I stand so much for.
Fantastic. And your mother's here, right? Yeah, there she is over there.
She's
I
right
haven't
over
seen
there.
her taking too many pictures, but probably has been. Nirmala, as we kind of wind down here, you guys have done a great job. Haven't they done a pretty good job here, these guys? Yeah. You know, if we're lucky, if we're lucky, we're going to be sitting on their boards of directors in about 10 or 15 years, right? This is, you know, you don't have to answer this. You can take the fifth. But you know, here you have, in most cases, in most cultures, especially the Indian culture, South Asian culture that I've become familiar with over decades, you know, typically younger people tend to kind of listen to the elders and hear what they have to say and receive their wisdom. But we've kind of reversed this for a few minutes here. Around philanthropy, any advice to the people here, as your elders, about what the directions you'd like to see philanthropy go in?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I feel like the best thing that people can do is to just give youth a voice and an opportunity to be part of initiatives. And for example, actual projects where we go in person and are able to actually see the issues firsthand and actually have experience with carrying out these tasks and solutions and seeing the benefits of that. Another thing would be just increasing advocacy, whether that's through social media or online. I feel like many nonprofits, organizations can use social media as a way to increase awareness on many problems like climate change or the digital divide or healthcare, and that's a way that they can connect to the youth because youth Generation Z is really heavily into social media. So those are the two biggest things.
Great. By the way, have you ever seen a picture of your face that large?
No.
No, me neither. It's kind of disconcerting, but we'll get over it. Years of therapy, maybe we'll get over it. Sia, what about you? What's your message to this group?
I think just continuing to listen to our voices and just hear our opinions, promoting our ideas and gathering as many supporters as possible, and investing in our ideas to help us create businesses, programs, classes, etc., to help promote our growth and help promote the issues that we feel so passionately about.
All right. Anything else you want to say here? Anything else about this experience coming to Boston? I don't know if you've been to Boston before, but what this has been like before we bring up the next panel?
All I have to say is that I hope I get invited next year. This is really amazing.
All right. Sia?
All that I want to say is thank you to all the organizers for hosting such a wonderful event, and it has been a pleasure, and I sincerely appreciate it.
All right, how about a round of applause for Sia and Nirmal? Yeah, great job, guys. Why not? All right. Well, thank you. And so you guys can take a deep breath, and you did great. And now we're going to bring up by the way, the idea of actually having them first and our CEOs come second was a conscious choice to give you all a kind of an early voice. And it's a small thing that we're trying to kind of take your words to heart. So thanks again, guys. And let's bring up our CEOs from India Philanthropy Alliance. Nice job. So there we go. So now this next section was really meant to be about another thing in the nonprofit sphere that we talk a lot about, but I'm not sure we do that often, which is how do we collaborate with each other? And this is what IPA, imperfectly to be sure, has been trying to do since our inception. But before we go down the row here and hear from these great leaders, who I'll ask to introduce themselves, so I don't have to read you their bios, which they're much better at it. Jay, you're the foundation that your family is behind has been backing the youth essay competition. Any thoughts about what we just heard from Sia and Nirmal?
Thanks, Alex. And he warned me ahead of time. He knows right after lunch I like to take a nap. So he said you have to summarize the previous session. So you're trying to keep me awake. So thanks, Alex, for doing that. No, first of all, congratulations to both of our winners and many of the other people who couldn't be here today, but they also, I think to summarize it, I think our future is in good hands. If you look, I've read many of the essays online, and they're all fantastic essays. And the thought process that got on behind it, and your passion for developing the world, developing the countries, developing India, it's amazing. It's truly amazing. So thank you very much. And Nirmal, I really appreciated your suggestions or your ideas on digital divide, which is absolutely between rural and urban areas. That is a huge problem, especially for the girls in the rural communities, not having access to digital literacy and those things. So I think that's a fantastic initiative on your behalf. And Sai, I really appreciated your Sai, right? No, Sia. I get my things mixed up here. Sia, no, this medical volunteerism is a fantastic idea, and getting the oath I think that's just amazing. Getting the oath from the people, getting the commitment to go out there and do things. I think congratulations to both of you, and fantastic thing. And we are so pleased with IPA being part of the student youth essay challenge, along with Sarvamangal, I believe, is our partners as well. So congratulations to IPA, and especially I want to recognize Peg's initiative on taking this process forward. It's not an easy task. What you do, 100-some essays, going after people, advertising. It's amazing amount of work. So thank you very much for your initiative.
And by the way, there are many ways to support the youth essay competition, including serving as a judge, who goes from 110 essays down to a small number. So I'm just going to ask, we'll go down the row here, and just the core question I'm going to ask is for each panelist. These are board members of the India Philanthropy Alliance, and a subset of them that are here today, to just introduce yourself and your organization. Some may not be as familiar. And then, why does your organization collaborate with other nonprofits in India and/or in the U.S.? And what have you learned from that? Because obviously not every collaboration is going to be equally successful. So why don't we start with you, Neha?
Sure, Alex, thank you. And again, it's been an amazing day of conversation. So I am Neha Gupta. I am the Executive Director for Teach for India US. If you were here for Ramesh's session, I help essentially power amazing leaders like Shaheen on the ground in India who are doing incredible work. We run a core fellowship program, so for those that may be familiar with Teach for America, similarly we do run a flagship fellowship program that helps generate that layer of leaders, as we saw an amazing example of 2 leaders here today. But collaboration is something that's very root to our DNA, because if you're going to drive systemic transformation, it would be a misnomer to think you can do it alone. So one of the programs in India that we're very deeply proud of is something that we call as Kids Education Revolution. And both of them did the job for me of saying, what is it all about? It's the single most thing that's a determinant of a kid's success after resources is whether somebody believes in them. And so Shaheen will always say, we help our fellows teach with love. And that's a very easy thing to say. It sounds like warm, pink, fluffy clouds. But when you're a low-income child, you may not have that at home, right? Your teacher may be that only person that makes you believe that this is different. So we collaborate with about 100+ organizations in India to bring teachers and students together, about 100,000 plus each year, to reimagine what the education model should look like. And that kids' education revolution actually has 1,000 kids, much like both of them, that imagine change development projects and are actively running them in their own schools. So they're becoming change agents and changing their own perception of what the barriers are for them as a low-income child. So India does an amazing job of collaborating. And here, we are a part of the Teach for All community. So some of you may be familiar with Wendy Kopp and the amazing work they do on globally sharing across all the countries the best practices. And I'm so grateful as somebody who's been in this role formally for a month to have the IPA family to collaborate with, because I can, and I do all the time, pick up the phone and say, can you tell me what you use for this? Or, hey, this foundation, we have seen them give a grant. I think you guys have been a recipient before. Can you tell me anything, right? And those are simple things when we talk about this idea of making philanthropy a movement, that we all have to look at it as a win-win puzzle. It's not a fixed pie game, right? In general, the amount of affluence that we have as South Asians today, we can completely change the landscape and change the narrative. So very grateful for what you guys do to help us achieve some of that collaboration here.
Okay, you don't have to pay your dues next year. Jay.
So I had to beat that to bypass. Thanks, Alex, putting me under pressure here. I think after my message, you may double it. So, no, I'm just kidding. Okay. So no, thanks, Alex. It's a very good question. I think Sehgal Foundation, we are also just like Dasra. We are also celebrating our 25 years of the completion, working in the rural communities. Thank you. And you know, we over the years we have developed tremendous amount of models. You know, many of you may not know, we work a lot on the agriculture side. We work in the rural communities on the agriculture side. We work with the water management. We work on women empowerment. So it's a little bit different than what a lot of my colleagues here may talk about education, but we are more working on the reduction of poverty, working through farming communities, working through women from the water community, water areas, those aspects. So over the years, we have also realized that the models that we have developed, they need to be shared with others. It's not, we always believe the fact that nonprofit work is not a proprietary work. It's a open source. It's to be shared with others. So we hold a lot of trainings for nonprofit organizations, grassroots level nonprofit organizations, how they can, we know as in India, we cannot share our financials as per the rules and regulations in the country, but we can definitely share our knowledge with the others. So we hold a lot of these trainings on agriculture. We do a lot of trainings on water, how we can, water management, water conservation issues, with a lot of the grassroots organizations which may not have resources that needed for that kind of knowledge. So those are trainings held at no cost to them, is a free of cost, free of everything. And similarly, we want to share those knowledges with others as well. It's not, again, our role is not to, the bottom line for all of us is to development in that particular aspect, and the only thing what we can do is join hands. And instead of, I see a lot of times we try, many organizations try to become jack of all trades, but once you don't have an impact, then you have a big problem in that particular aspect. Focus on your programs, and if there's a specialty, joining hands with other organizations, one must get that, take the opportunity. We don't have a lot of knowledge about environment, for example. We very closely work with Dr. Baba and Atri on taking that particular process forward, because that is a concern for the family and concern for our organization as well. So that's how we join hands with various organizations in working together. And the collaboration is the way to do it, and instead of trying to do everything yourself.
Okay, we'll keep your dues constant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I was okay.
You were okay, yeah. Ushri.
I represent Vicente Ferrer Foundation, and we work in India through our sister concern, Rural Development Trust. We are mainly working in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana region. Rural Development Trust, known as RDT, working there for the last 55 years. So our work mainly based in two principles. We work in the area of rural community empowerment. And when it comes to our work, we follow mainly two principles. And when it comes to our collaboration, approach towards collaboration also, that also depends on those principles. First, we work like, our focus is also holistic, just like Segal Foundation. So we also work in the domain of education, women empowerment, sustainable farming, community health, so whatever, because problems are many and evolving constantly. So there need to be different kind of solutions, those need to be addressed, to address the challenges. So we constantly work towards that. So there's enough scope when it comes to collaboration as we work in multiple areas. Second approach that we follow, principle, that is a bottom-up approach. Because there's sometimes we feel okay, this is something good for the community and it's going to work for them. But it is not so. We have say community development committees in every villages where we work, because we are working there for the 55 years and we have enough support from the community level volunteers. So they are part of they are our implementing partner who decide every year what kind of project they are going to implement in their villages and whether at all they require those projects. So when it comes to partnering with any organizations, we follow that, if it's, suppose it's a new technology or something very innovative approach or model that we need to integrate with the present work that we are doing. So we always discuss it with the CDC members, whether community at all need that, whether they believe in it, because until and unless community embrace it, it's not going to sustain. It's very important that when community is involved with something, it's part of our sustainability effort, so that whatever effort we are putting in is going to stay. So that's the approach we follow with our collaborative approach. Yeah.
Great.
Thank
Great. Sejal.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sejal Desai, Executive Director for the Akanksha Education Fund. We enable inclusive growth, but keeping in mind that schools are a unit of change for us. We believe in the transformative power of a public-private partnership school, where various different stakeholders are involved, everybody from teachers, school leaders, parents, community members, social workers, and the students themselves all come together to ensure a holistic education. That again, at the end of it, what we want to see is economic mobility for our students. We want to see student voice in agency and also citizenship, right? So today, when we look at our schools and our communities, our kids are now not doing the same jobs that their parents or grandparents were doing. They're actually in meaningful employment where they've been pulled out of generational poverty. Our students have a voice. They are great citizens in the community, and many of them are already giving back to the communities within which they've lived and worked, right? And so that's the kind of work we like to see. Also, when we think about scale, we're actually scaling deep. So very different from some of the large numbers that you might hear. We actually talk about working for 20 years, 30 years within the communities within which we are, and scaling deep. So it's sort of a different approach to the kind of work we do. We're currently in 3 different cities, Mumbai, Pune, and Nagpur. We run 26 schools, so there are 26 communities that we've impacted, and something that we're really proud about in all of this work is that we've actually enabled mindset shifts, right? So the grandmothers in those communities that used to never want to send their girls to school are now the strongest proponents for not only sending the girls to school, but ensuring that they're getting the best education they can, that they're not getting married off early enough. And so we've loved seeing some of these mindset shifts. And then one other quick example I'll give you was that I was in Pune 2 years ago and talking to one of the fathers of our students, and he started talking to me about how he was so proud that him and other dads in the community led an initiative around menstrual awareness. They got a vending machine with sanitary napkins put in, and I had a whole hours worth of conversation with him about menstruation, and I've never talked to my dad about a period, right? And so it was really interesting to see what kind of shift happened in the community through these kinds of initiatives. So as it relates to collaboration, right? There are many reasons why Akanksha collaborates, but I'll very quickly mention three. The first is just the acceptance that we don't have all the skills and expertise we need to go out and do all of this work on our own, right? So one of the areas that we've done this with is an organization called Leadership for Equity. They come with a deep understanding of working with government systems, and we know how to implement schools and what it means to implement a good school, right? And so together we have a partnership called Project Setu that had been funded by the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, working in Nagpur as well as in Pune, to take some of our best practices to 60 different schools, empowering 1,000 school leaders and teachers and 80,000 students, right? So those were kind of the numbers, but we couldn't have done this on our own, nor could Leadership for Equity have done this on their own, right? So it was sort of this pooling of skills and expertise. The other is innovation, right? And I'll actually bring up our partnership with TFI on the ground. We, of course, have common founders, and so a lot of commonality in values, but when TFI fellows get placed at Akanksha schools, it's a win-win for both. The fellows get to see what a good school environment or what a good education can look like. And when we get their fellows, we get innovative ideas and energy coming in from those fellows as well. And so, over the years, the partnership has worked, really well. And we're continuing to focus on that. And the third thing I would say is just reach, right? I think collaboration allows an organization to actually have much more reach than, if you were trying to do it yourself, right? So those are three reasons why we end up collaborating quite a bit, but anyway, I'll stop there.
Shannon. Yeah.
Hi all, I'm Shannon Paz. I'm the CEO of Antra International, which is an organization that focuses on maternal and child health care. We were founded by Ashok Alexander, who had run the Gates office in India for about a decade, and he formed the organization to work on the issue of maternal and child mortality, specifically in parts of India where the rates are much higher than the rest of the country. So we had operated in Rajasthan for about 5 years and now work in Madhya Pradesh, where we are working to kind of scale up our programs and integrate a new element of our work. And put very simply, our model is sort of the grease on the wheels to the existing government health system. We work with the frontline health workers to help increase their capacity to be able to meet mothers and children with better health care at all of the points of their journey, from a mother's conception through a child's early years. Increasingly, we are working with communities themselves, as we know that they know their problems and they have the best solutions that we just need to help them unlock. So working to scale up both this supply side and demand side of our work in Madhya Pradesh. So that's our programs in short. And to get to the central question around collaboration, there's a few different things. One, of course, is just in any nonprofit's work, you have to really look at what is the ecosystem and where are the gaps and where can you add value, and that all has to be established in early days. But I think that's a constant question that needs to be asked, as it's a constantly changing landscape. And one of the things that we are talking about a lot within the team in India is how do we learn from other nonprofits, particularly with regard to what's worked well internally and what we can help to replicate. So by that, I mean, how do we develop staff? How do we create a positive, good internal culture? All of these things that nonprofits kind of face agnostic of the issue area or place in the world. So we owe that to our the constituency that we serve, the women and children, and the donors that place their trust in us to become the most effective, efficient kind of organization. And we can do that by learning through others that have walked this path before us. The other thing I'll say with regard to the US, Neha mentioned it, but I think just of sharing of resources, ideas, especially for those of us based in the US that are responsible for fundraising, awareness, and partnerships, In the nonprofit sector, when you're fundraising, it is so easy, as all of you know, to have a scarcity mindset, and we really need to shift that narrative to have an abundance mindset. There is money out there. These are complex set of issues that we can solve for, and if we have that abundance mindset and share with each other rather than kind of just try to hone in on our particular work, we will be able to solve for those problems much better. So, forums like the India Philanthropy Alliance today, it's just so wonderful to connect with others and to keep that dialogue going.
Great. It probably won't surprise you to know that Shannon and I are known as the Great White Hopes of IPA. We have also some other board members who we couldn't fit on stage, Raul Saxena, Brij Kothari, Manisha Bharti, who I don't know if is still here, Deepak Raj, Sanjeev Joshipura, and Nalini Saligram. But here's the self-serving question of the panel. I ask it because, some of the groups that joined IPA did it only after a couple years of thinking about it. It takes time. We have monthly meetings, which are expertly planned and facilitated, I might add. But what has been the most surprising benefit of committing your time to this coalition? It may not be the fairest question to ask you, but we'll start with you anyway.
So I can give still a meaningful answer thanks to the FCRA joys. We're all in cumulatively, right? The surprising thing is, right, you want to share the good, but you also want a place to share the bad, right? Or you want a safe space to be able to talk about those things that you may not say out loud to your donors, you may not say it to your board members necessarily off the bat, but you can almost sit down and have a heart-to-heart and say, this is my worst fear. What happens if this happens, right? And I think there's a real, that's been the most surprising element for me, which is we can talk about all the scarcity mindset, but I have to really give it a credit to the IPA board for having that candor and that openness and that warmth. And also, frankly, to Alex and Peg, they organized a conference with 2 attorneys. So you kind of put the issue front and center. There is no way out, if you will, than to talk about it. So I think that's been a really pleasantly surprising thing, that it's not just the rah-rah parade. It's also all the tough stuff.
Okay, your next year's fees waived off. The Siegel Foundation, for our idea from 20 years ago, we tried to create this forum bringing the nonprofit organization together, because we firmly believe there's so much knowledge is there between all of us. And how do you create a forum where we can all meet, share knowledge, learn from each other, and all it does is expedite the work that we all trying to do instead of, again, I mentioned earlier, instead of recreating the wheel every time, how can we learn from each other to take this process forward? We attempted to develop a coalition some 20 years ago. Unfortunately, did not succeed. And as soon as I learned about Alex's initiative and the initiative of India Philanthropy Alliance, we right away jumped on. And there was no thinking from our side. I said, this is exactly what we're looking for. And since we have joined almost 2 years now, and I think there has been tremendous learning, meeting with each other, sitting with all of you, with our retreats, with our forums, and with these town halls. It's been a tremendous learning. It just continue to evolve, and I congratulate you, and again, to getting this process on the right footing. So thank you. It works.
Thank you.
Still trying to get
yeah. So we are a member of India Philanthropy Alliance less than a year. In fact, Alex reached out to me as soon as I joined the foundation almost 2 years back, and I couldn't decide that time because why we are not part of it, and I'm very new. So why we are going to join India Philanthropy Alliance? That's the question was in my mind. Then I saw India Giving Day. That year we didn't participate. There's so much of energy, and yes, we have to be part of that energy. So that's how we are part of India Philanthropy Alliance. I feel it's like an umbrella that fits in organization of different sizes. There are big organizations, there are medium-sized organizations, there are much smaller organizations also. And in terms of being connected with people, that's a great platform because particularly organizations who are working just in India, the nature of problem that they face are often very different from the organization those are just working here in the United States. So you have all the resources, you can be connected with all the people who can give you share their knowledge. Other day I had I was looking for some advice related to accounts. I reached out to Sejal, do you know someone who can help me with, and she provided that contact. So that's the way it's very helpful. And apart from that, I think when it comes to visibility, it's going to definitely, when non-profits are part of a platform like this, is going to give them increasing visibility. Thank you.
So a lot has already been said, but I will. I have personally been part of IPA for about 3.5 years since we joined. I joined Akanksha, but we've been members ever since IPA, started. A couple of things. A lot of us are U.S.-based organizations of Indian NGOs, right? And so, at the heart of it, most of us are set up here as fundraising organizations. And we're largely reaching out to the same foundations, individuals, and such, right? And so technically, we're supposed to be competitors, right? Or that's how people view us. What has been very surprising to me, and something that I think we've all built together, is that, while we might be competing for similar funds, we actually have a very strong sense of camaraderie, right, and desire to share. And I think that's getting better. There are times when, if we said we want to host a common fundraising event, we now have an online one, but hopefully we'll extend that to other places. But I think that what we've built here is pretty significant. I personally consider this group of people as my personal board of directors, right? And I think, it is very lonely otherwise when you're sitting here, all the program work is going on the ground in India. Even if you have a team here, it's pretty lonely at the top, right? And so being able to have individuals that you can share ideas with, you can bounce off things, and Neha already mentioned the 4-letter F word, which was not said before, but all of us, are going through some aspect of dealing with the FCRA issue, and so, for good reasons as well as for tough times, this group has been able to share best practices and share learnings, and I just had a half an hour conversation with another 2 individuals that are going through similar concerns that we are in. The only way we could do it is because there is this coalition of people, and there's trust. Underlying all of this is trust, and I think that's that's been really important. But I'm actually quite excited to see what else will come out of this coming together. It's the best $6,000 you can invest in. So if you're not part of IPA, here is the plug. Go put it in your budget. Have a board member talk to us if they have doubts, but this is the best investment you will make as a US-based organization for an Indian NGO. Did I just get my fees waived? Okay, good.
Well, I would certainly echo all of what has been shared, and especially Sejal's comments. I think I'll just add from my personal perspective, I joined Antara earlier this year, and I've worked in global organizations my entire career, and have been new to India, for fundraising for India, to the culture, and I have been so warmly welcomed by this community, and IPA has played a huge role in being my teachers and my mentors, and to extending that warm Indian hospitality that I've been so lucky to be learning about over the course of the year. So would just say that from a personal perspective, it's been really helpful in me kind of getting my footing in this role. And I think it's important as well to, this is, I'm biased, but to look at, how are we solving for problems in India? How are we solving for problems for the world? Like, these two questions are actually almost the same, or they're synergistic. And, I think that we need to bring perspectives from other regions of the world to help us with, this set of complex challenges that we are looking to solve for. So that's an additional value add that this diverse community provides.
Okay, we have time for a lightning round. Also, I should mention Nishant Pandey. I don't know if he's here. Is one of our vice chairs, along with Jay and another of our board members. We could actually have a board meeting. We'd have a quorum. We should do it right after the meeting. Anyway, lightning round. So you're back to your board and asking for that $6,000. Those of you who still owe it. And some of our board members are so proud of the organizations they're on the board of that they take on this hyper-competitive kind of attitude. They ask you the question in a board meeting: why should we be paying this? Why should we be collaborating with organizations that are our competitors? What's going on here? In 2 sentences, how do you respond to a board member with that kind of a mindset?
I think the key question is, aren't we solving the same problem together, right? We're trying to build the India that we all dream of. And if it's about empowering young voices, it doesn't matter if you do it through a fellowship or you're in 8 cities, or you do it through 3 state schools, do you do it through, teachers all over, whatever the model is. And I think that's the challenge back to them.
Great. Jay?
Yeah, very similar to what Neha said. I think it's the collaboration and learning from others and stuff. We are not in competition. We are in collaboration mode, and we are learning from others, and also they are learning from us. So it's the sharing and caring, and that's what makes it unite us together. So
great. Shree?
Yeah. So collaboration most of the time is we often just skeptic about it. That is, first it's like whether they are competitor and they are really going to harm our organization. It's often not so. So when it comes to a platform like India Philanthropy Alliance, I think is, so far my experience is like all win-win. So yeah.
Thank you.
When you go last, when you end up going last, most of the points have already been made. But what I'll say is, we're stronger together, right? I think our capacity to raise money is much higher if we go at this together, right? If we solve problems together, if we're actually here to support one another. So that would be one. And the second quick thing would be that this is probably the best leadership development or professional development dollars you can spend on your executive director and your board. And so that's kind of another piece I wanted to make.
Ditto, 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 ditto. I think that the only other thing I would add is that we actually help to amplify each other, that this actually serves as a bit of a kind of marketing platform. You talk to someone who doesn't fund your vertical of work, oh, well, I know all these other organizations that you might be interested in. And so it's a wonderful referral network that, again, sort of embodies that abundance mindset.
Yeah, you want one more point?
And for all the philanthropists in the room, right, if you talk about risky capital and organizations making mistakes, you want them to make less, let them all collaborate with each other and learn from each other's mistakes.
Yeah, there you go. So if you'd please join me in thanking the panel and the previous panel, and we'll turn it over to the next group.